Cool. Welcome to another Talisman Digital 5th edition developer stream. I'm launching straight into it on a Friday morning because there's a lot to be done. If you didn't know, behind the scenes we're working on a lot of cool stuff for Talisman Digital 5th edition. And yeah, part of that is I wanted to do a stream to show off the latest patch for the game that we've just rolled out. Good point, me. I should probably make sure that I am on the latest version. Let's have a look. Because I've got access to all of the developer builds. But no, I am on the latest patch. So this is a patch that we rolled out. When did we roll this out? Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? December 11th, so 2 days ago. So basically it includes a bunch of fixes based on community feedback and requests that we've had, and we're just constantly working in the background to make the game better, which I think we're achieving quite well. Apologies for my raspy throat. Like I said, it is Friday morning. I've literally not even looked at my emails or socials or anything like that yet. I am launching straight into a Talisman Digital 5th edition stream because it's a bit more fun, basically. I woke up this morning and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to play some Talisman. I'm going to show you guys what's up. Let's delete all of these because I think these are... I know what those are. So right now, as I speak, and maybe not as I speak, as you're watching this, we are currently working on the Reaper Classic expansion for Talisman Digital 5th edition. So what that is, for anyone that doesn't know, is we decided to, as part of making Talisman Digital 5th edition, we were looking at what kind of content, what kind of expansions, what kind of stuff we wanted to bring to the game aside from just the base game. I realise that I'm looking at myself. I should be looking up here. Let me move that so that I'm looking more towards you guys. Cool. Yes. So yes, as I was saying, we had a little think about, what kind of stuff do we want to add to Talisman Digital 5th edition, because one of the things that we're very aware of is the fact that Talisman Digital Classic Edition has been out for like 10 years, 11 years at this point. So there was a lot to think about when it came to... not a lot to think about. There's a lot of content for Talisman Digital Classic Edition, is what I'm trying to say. When you've got many years of expansions and extra characters, it's hard to compete with that because it's got 15 something expansions. And one of the things that we knew off the bat was that Talisman Digital 5th edition wouldn't be able to really compete with that. And that's not like a disservice to 5th edition, that's just the nature of you're competing against 10 years of expansions. So what we decided to do was take all of the content that was in 4th edition, so all of the expansions, all of the extra characters, all of the stuff that we originally did for 4th edition, we're going to be bringing across to 5th edition. But not just like a straight, here's all the old assets, here's all the old characters, here's all the old mechanics, nothing changed, just boshed straight into 5th edition. No, we decided what we were going to do is we were going to take that previous content, so the Reaper is what we're working on at the moment. We're going to take that previous content, remaster it, rework it, and update it so that it fits with the new style, both in terms of look and feel and gameplay of Talisman 5th edition. So the reason, I'm getting there eventually, the reason that those saved games looked all a bit weird is because those were Reaper games that I was playing on the beta version of 5th edition that we've got. So right now, the Reaper is in a playable state. We've managed to get it into 5th edition, which is very exciting. All the new art looks really cool. I'm going to be showing some of that off on our socials and in our newsletter and on our website. So make sure you follow us if you want to see what we've been doing to bring the Reaper into 5th edition. So yes, basically long-winded way of me saying that's the reason why those saved games look a bit weird. Could have explained that a bit easier, but hey-ho. Alright, I am in. So normally when I do these streams, I tend to talk quite a lot. But I just want to show you guys a bit of Talisman Digital 5th edition, because what I realised is that a lot of the times, I'm doing it right now, I'll end up talking and nothing will be happening on the screen, which isn't that fun. So what I'm going to do for this particular stream is I'm going to stick to actually playing the game. So do I want to go to the Crags? I probably don't want to go to the Crags. The Crags seem like a bad idea, so I'm going to go to the Sentinel. Draw an adventure card. I'll take an Alchemist. You can join me. Yes, so I'm just going to play the game because that seems like a fun thing to do. Well, I said I'm going to play the game. The wizard is going to use Temporal Warp to take many, many turns, which means that I don't actually get to play the game, which is a bit annoying. But hey-ho, it means that I get to chat to you all. So yes, we've rolled out a number of patches for Talisman Digital 5th edition since it's launched. When we first launched, we got a couple of people in the Steam reviews and on the forums pointing out that, you know, a number of different issues and things that we needed to jump on, things that we needed to make sure we're getting sorted. And since launch, that's what we've done. When we originally published our roadmap for Talisman Digital 5th edition, we literally put in there that we would focus on community fixes and improvements immediately after launch, and that's what we've done. We've added, it's not just been fixes, we've also added some new house rules. We've made some updates to how the AI works specifically. Basically, we've made the game a lot better than it was at launch, which has gone down really well with the community. I think every single patch that we've rolled out has been generally super positively received, and our team have been working super hard. Obviously, I'm a bit biased because I'm part of that team, but something that I will say is just the fact that, you know, our team have worked super hard on Talisman Digital 5th edition. I think it shows with how much the game has improved even in just the month since it's come out. I think it's doing really, really well, and I'm really happy with it. Alright, I have one spell left. I don't need any healing as far as I'm aware. Yeah. So I'm just going to go to the woods. I'm just going to go to the woods. I'm going to go to the cave. I don't want to lose a life. I still lose a life. Ah, well. Ah, well. These things happen. I was wondering why I couldn't move very far, but then I was like, oh, it's the blizzard. I realised that because of the little snow effect that's happening above my character, which is quite good. We've tried to not go overboard with that kind of thing. This is something that we could only do in 5th edition, where we have these like small little effects to let you know what's happening in the game, just at a glance, without having some kind of icon in the corner that just says this card is currently in effect. Like, yes, that does the job, but if we can just put a little effect on your character, sometimes that does the job as well. Alright, trading your wraiths. yes, something that I always forget and always consider is the fact that for many people, this is probably your first time seeing Talisman, or at least for someone out there. I know it's been around since the 80s, so chances are you will have seen it before. But for many people, you wouldn't have necessarily seen it before. And Talisman is a game that, like I said, has been around since the 80s. It's a game that is iconic at this point. A lot of people describe it as a bit of a Marmite game. For anyone that doesn't live in the UK or Australia, you might not know what that means. But the basic concept is you either love it or you hate it. Like, you either absolutely adore Talisman and think that it's the best game ever, and it is a staple of any games night that you run, or it's a game that you've bounced off of and you've gone, nah, I can't be dealing with this anymore. This isn't the game for me. And I do understand that. Like, it's not that it's a divisive game. It's a game that you have to come at it with a certain mindset of, because when we originally started working on Talisman Digital Edition, way back in like 12 years ago, we actually sat down and talked to the original designer of Talisman, just to understand like what his thought process was when designing the game, what his thought process was about, you know, the philosophy of Talisman, the mindset of what we should take on board when it comes to designing new content, the things that are important to Talisman players, keeping that spirit of Talisman in the game. And one of the things that he really emphasized to us was that yes, Talisman is random. Yes, Talisman has a lot of random elements to it, but so does life. And I know that sounds a bit pretentious, but if you were an adventurer and you set out on a quest, in most traditional stories, you're going to make sure that the adventurer fights, you know, small goblins at the start, bigger enemies as they go along, and then they end up fighting the dragon at the end. Talisman, you can step out your front door and the dragon is just there. And yes, you might not be ready for it, but the idea that the dragon could just be there, like, adds a lot more tension to it. A lot more tension to the game. A lot more of a, oh, this could happen. And I think keeping that alive and keeping that feeling of, you know, you're not necessarily just in for a smooth sailing, nice and easy curve, means that when those dramatic things happen, when you see a dragon, because you know that that's a possibility, it makes it so much more exciting. If I knew that he was going to fight a goblin, like, every single game plays out the same, right? Talisman, no two games ever play out the same, which is what makes it exciting. And I think that's one of the things that we really appreciate about all of the expansions that have been added to Talisman Digital Classic Edition over the years. It really expands upon that randomness, that feeling that anything could happen, because you have so many more cards being added, so many more interactions going on, which again is why we've put so much effort into, you know, launching the game and then going, okay, our focus needs to be on remastering these classic expansions so that we can bring them over into 5th edition. So we're super excited to show you guys more about the Reaper Classic. It's coming along really, really well. And yeah, like I said, I'm really excited. I've played with it quite a bit myself. And it's weird because when you have when you've had so long playing Talisman Digital Classic Edition, you sort of take for granted that there's certain expansions that you can add to the game that will just expand upon what's in the adventure deck, that'll just make the game feel more robust and have more options for players. And it's not to say that the base game, there's no point in the base game. Like, the base game is still good, the base game is still great. Like, we still love the Talisman base game, and I think a lot of people on, especially our Discord and on Steam, have commented saying that they actually massively appreciate that 5th edition is just the base game, because it's something that they've missed and haven't been able to properly experience for a long time, because you become so used to, oh well, I've got to play with these 4 expansions on, and that's essentially the new base game. And one of the things that we want to, like I said, we're just adding the Reaper alone makes the game feel so much more robust, even from just the limited time that I've spent playing with it. So, a ghost. Also, I don't know whether or not doing a Friday morning stream was the best idea, because I'm aware that I could be rambling. So, alright. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hide that. I wonder if there's ways that I can better utilise my face. Alright. Cool. I now have a larger face. Isn't that cool? Alright. Let's roll the dice. That seems like a fun thing to do. Yeah, I think because it's Friday morning, I'm going a little bit slightly insane and not speaking as I should. So I'm gonna take a moment to chill. And yeah, if you have any questions or things that you want to know about Talisman Digital 5th edition, even if you're watching this after the fact, you can follow us and check us out on all the places we are online, and we'll answer your questions, because that's something that we are very happy to do. Let's see what's going on. The Rune Sword. The Wizard seems to be doing really well. Not sure how I feel about that. Don't think I enjoy the Wizard doing really well. I'd like it if the Wizard was not doing so well, because I'd like to do well, and I'd like him to do not as well as me. That's the Talisman rhetoric. So something I did want to speak about, which is something that has come up a couple of times, is people on either the Discord or Steam or other forms of social media will sometimes ask, you know, what is the difference between 5th edition and 4th edition? You know, why would I get this when I already own Talisman Digital Classic Edition? You know, what's the point of getting this new version of Talisman? And you know, this is something that we've actually talked to Games Workshop and Avalon Hill about. We actually talked to them quite a bit about it, because you know, it's the same discussion and debate that, ooh, yeah, I'll take a sword. It's the same discussion and debate that people had about the physical version. Like, I already own the physical 4th edition of Talisman. Why would I invest in the 5th physical edition of Talisman? You know, it's the same debate. And I think it's an interesting one, because there's obvious changes and there's not so obvious changes that don't really present themselves until you actually start playing the game. So, obvious changes is the new look of Talisman 5th edition, which is, I really enjoy it. Like, it's, yes, Talisman 4th edition has a very classic fantasy style, And, you know, I understand that a lot of people really like that. I really like that too. Like, it harks back to a lot of the classic Dungeons and Dragons style artwork, or like early Magic the Gathering artwork from the 90s. And, you know, I really appreciate that. And I think what they've done with updating the artwork, let's see, let's have a look at some of the shiny new artwork. I don't want to alchemize that. Why would I alchemize that? Have I actually got a cast spell? Let's alchemize. Yeah, I think what they've done with keeping that sort of classic fantasy style while also updating it to a more modern look. Those guys over at Hasbro and Games Workshop has come across really well. Really, really well. I think it really shows where they want Talisman to be, and where Talisman should be, which is, you know, yes, it is classic fantasy. It is everything that you'd expect from a classic fantasy, but that doesn't mean it's stuck in the past. That doesn't mean that it's I was too busy speaking and I got eaten by a goblin. That's just my life. That's just classic my life. Yeah, it's classic fantasy, in all the ways that classic fantasy should be celebrated. Like, there's wizards, there's warriors, there's elves, there's prophetesses, there's ancient sentinels, there's elder dragons. You know, it's all classic, what you'd expect from fantasy stuff. And I think with the game being 40 years old, it makes sense to lean into that stuff. But again, the artwork, it now looks so crisp and modern while still keeping that classic fantasy feeling. I think is a really, really good mix. So yes, that's one of the differences between 4th edition and 5th edition, which obviously you can see by looking at it. But there's a whole host of other things that until you actually start playing, let's use this. Cast on creature. Let's immobilize a sentinel. Yeah, until you actually start playing it, like especially for people who have spent a long time playing 4th edition. This was something that we saw in the earlier reviews for the physical version as well. There's a lot of small changes that until you actually start playing 5th edition, it's hard to properly appreciate. And a lot of those changes are related to how the game plays, and the overall speed of the game. So there's a lot of small changes to how, for example, how fate works, and cards have been tweaked and adjusted to overall increase the speed that the game plays at, which means that, you know, one of the common jokes about Talisman as a board game, both physical and digital, is if you start playing a game of Talisman, you should be ready to commit like 2 hours to playing it. You know, less for the digital version, but the physical version, you need to book out an entire afternoon to be playing Talisman. And with 5th edition, that was something that really they wanted to remedy. They wanted to make it so that it didn't feel like it was taking as long. You could have more games, the gameplay was faster. And that's something that really comes across once you actually start playing 5th edition. And like, it doesn't make it so that it's necessarily easier. Like, I know that there's some people online that have been like, oh, Talisman 5 is just baby mode. Oh, Talisman 5 is just easy compared to 4th edition. I don't think so. Like, as someone that's put a lot of hours into 4th edition, I would say that Talisman 5th edition is more streamlined. I think streamlined is the right way to put it. Like, it takes out a lot of the steps that felt either unnecessary or just too much. And I think having that in the game and having it make it so that, oh, I'll take a mage. I'll absolutely take a mage. Cool. Yeah, having it so that, you know, a lot of the elements that either reset you back to 0 when you die, that's a good example of something that they updated. Making it so there's a lot more comeback mechanics, giving you a chance to get back into the game if you fall behind, means that it's not just, oh, I'm now going to wander around the board because I don't really have it very good odds. Like that rebalance, I massively appreciate that personally. So yeah, that's one of the big changes in 5th edition. Obviously, in the future, when you're playing with 15 different expansions, both classic and new 5th edition expansions, I imagine that will change. But for now, at least, the base game is a lot quicker in 5th edition than the 4th edition base game. And it's not a case of, oh, it's quicker so you miss out on a lot of the Talisman experience. Like, I genuinely do think they've managed to speed up the gameplay and speed up the experience while keeping the experience as it was, which is quite impressive. Like, you can tell that a lot of thought has gone into the design of the 5th edition, which obviously makes our job as people who are making a adaptation of the 5th edition a lot easier, which is always appreciated. I'm gonna go to the Oasis. I'm gonna get some gold. I'm gonna treat myself. Oh, that's a good. I'll take Holy Symbol. Right. I don't need the raft because I'm already in the inner region, but it's still good to have. Alright. Oh, that wizard is absolutely bullying that elf. Does he have something that... Does she have something? No, she doesn't seem to have anything particular. I think the wizard's just feeling like a dick. But the wizard's gonna die. That's the risk you take. So this is a good example of how they've sped up the game. So wizard is now dead. In 4th edition, he would reset completely back to as he was, as if he just started the game, which, you know, if you've been playing for half an hour like we have, that's quite brutal. That's quite harsh on the player. And you know, some people like that. Some people want that experience, and fair, that's fine. We have house rules that let you do that. However, not everyone does want that. And I think giving people, ooh, yeah, I'll alchemize that. I might as well turn my raft into gold. Giving people the option is something that we've always tried to do when it comes to Talisman. Like, we've not seen Talisman as a, oh, it needs to be this one particular experience. It needs to be what we dictate it is, because as we've seen from the community online, as we've seen from people playing it physically, Talisman is a game where people take that base experience and they make what they want out of it. So for us, giving people as many options as they can for customizing, as many options as they can for changing the game, making it play how they want to, either on their own or with friends. That's the mentality that we've absolutely come to Talisman with over the last 10 years, and the mentality that we're going to come at it for the next 10 years, to be honest. Like, the reason... I know I was talking about the difference between 4th edition and 5th edition. And that segue, that's a nice little segue, of customization actually brings me to discussing the deck editor, which is a new feature in Talisman Digital 5th Edition. You know what? I'm not gonna just talk about it and not show you it. I might as well show you it. Right. Saved game, cool. All right, let's go to my collection. Let's go to decks, and let's go and delete this new deck. So let's create deck. So for anyone who's only played 4th edition and hasn't played 5th edition yet, this will look completely new to you, and that's because it is completely new. But if you don't know what this is the deck editor for Talisman Digital 5th edition. So this is something that was requested for 4th edition, or Talisman Digital Classic Edition, however you want to call it, for a long time, basically since the game launched. And one of the issues that we had with Talisman Digital Classic Edition is that it is a game that has been being updated for 10 years. And when we originally launched it, we weren't even sure if we were going to be making DLC for it. We thought we might just do the base game, and people wouldn't be that interested, and we just had to leave it as is. And so when we originally designed Talisman Digital Classic Edition, we did so under the assumption that we wouldn't need to build upon a lot of things. And it meant that when we did reach the point where we go, okay, a deck editor is something the community wants, it's something the community has loudly asked for, we can't do it. And it's not that we didn't want to do it, it's that implementing this kind of feature in a game that's 10 years old, on top of all that legacy code, just makes so many things break, it makes so many things go wrong, that it was actually easier to make Talisman Digital 5th Edition than it would have been to make the deck editor in Talisman Digital Classic Edition, which is mad. I'm not a programmer, so part of me thinks that's mad, but the way that it's been explained to me is that so many things end up breaking for unknown reasons when you're building upon legacy code that it just becomes a nightmare to make anything new for that kind of game. So one of the things that we've done with Talisman Digital 5th Edition is we've specifically built it from the ground up to be very modular, to be very editable, so that in the future, as we add more and more and more and more and more content, we won't come across that issue again. That's one of the benefits of learning from a previous game. So yes, basically, if you didn't see the deck editor in Classic Edition and you're wondering where it was, that's why. But we knew that it was something that we wanted to make in 5th edition from the get-go. So let me show you what it's all about. So in Talisman Digital 5th edition, you have in all versions of Talisman, you have a adventure deck, a spells deck, and a couple of other extra decks that get added depending on the expansion. And if you're playing, say, the physical version of Talisman, you might be playing it and go, oh, every time we play and that one particular card comes up, it's really annoying and no one in the playgroup likes it. So if you're playing with the physical game, you can just take it out of the deck, right? You go, we don't like that card. Done. Digitally, we need to give you the tools to do that, because you can't just turn around and say, okay, I want to take this out, I want to remove this card. That's not something you can do when you're playing a digital version unless we give you the tools. So that's why we've given you the tools. So with the deck editor, you can browse all of the different cards that are in the adventure deck, all the enemies, all of the spells, all the strangers, and you can pick and choose what is going to be included in your next game. So we show you how many is in the default version, and then you can either remove, so you can set it to 0 if you want it to not appear in your game at all, or you can add multiple copies. So one of the things that we know people have been doing is, obviously they've been going through and removing cards that their playgroup particularly doesn't like, but you can do all sorts of crazy stuff once you start adding multiples of certain types of cards. Like, we made sure that it wasn't just the adventure deck you could edit. We also gave you the ability to edit the objects and the spells that you've got. So for anyone that hasn't played Talisman before, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, the adventure deck and the spell deck are separate. So if you are instructed to draw a new spell or gain a spell, you specifically get that from the spell deck. Customizing the spell deck then means that you have way more control over what kind of spells appear in the game. So for example, Counterspell is a spell where you cancel another player's spell. You don't want that to happen at any point in your game, you can just remove it. You can just set it to 0. Counterspells now do not happen. If you want there to be far more randomness, go for it. If you want to put a ton of copies of the random spell and turn everyone into toads and make the game super chaotic, go for it. Like, one of the things that we really kept in mind when we were designing the deck editor is more options for players is something that they're always going to appreciate. So we tried to put as few limits on the deck editor as possible. Like, sure, that means that occasionally someone might break the game if they put themselves in an unwinnable situation, but you have to go out your way to do that, right? So we're trusting you guys to not do anything too crazy. If you want to try to do something crazy, you can do something crazy. So yes, this is the deck editor, and it's quite fun. I quite enjoy using the deck editor. You can really adjust on a very granular level what your Talisman experience is going to be like, which I really appreciate, and something that is worth bearing in mind, and especially became apparent to me once I started playing with the Reaper, the beta version of the Reaper that we've got, is adding new expansions, you know, with the deck editor in 5th edition means that there's so many more opportunities that get added to the game for customization and for updating and for playing differently than there ever was before. Like, so say in Talisman Digital Classic, yes, you could choose which expansions you were going to play with, but you had to pick and choose an entire expansion at once. Like, yes, you could choose if there was NPCs and there were certain house rules that you could implement, but if you wanted to play the Woodland expansion, but there was a handful of cards in that expansion that you were like, I don't like it when they come up, you didn't really have the option. You had to go either all or nothing. And I think playing with the Reaper expansion and being able to customize what is in the Reaper expansion makes it so much better. And I think combining the base game deck editor with the Reaper deck editor, like, I can already see how much that's going to get built on as the years go by, and that's super exciting. Hey, Chipoxix. I'm assuming that's how I should say your name. I also missed a sword because I was saying hello, but that's probably fine. That's not fine. That would have meant that I drew instead of dying. Annoying. Yes, so that was the deck editor, which, like I said, is a new feature for Talisman Digital 5th edition. And if you set up your decks, you can also play them online. So if you have a friend group that you love playing Talisman with, and you're like, oh, I'm feeling like I want to have a really chaotic game night, you can do that. If you want to remove all of the random elements that you dislike about Talisman, like if If you enjoy the core Talisman experience, but you're like, you know what? It's too random for me. Take some cards out of the deck. You know, add some more cards to the deck that require you to be more consistent with how you're playing. Like, it's up to you. Like, however you want to do it, that's what you can do. The Wizard is really smashing it. I'm semi-concerned about that. Not fully concerned. I don't want to give the idea that I'm fully concerned, but semi-concerned. Yes, so the deck editor is a really cool feature that, like I said, we've added to 5th edition to give players even more options when it comes to how they want to experience Talisman. Hi. There's a cat. Would you like to say hello? Trying to get the cat to say hello. Bucky. Yes. Why are you so unsure? Yes. Come on. He's not normally this unsure. I am going to let the AI continue while I try and coax my cat into sitting so that I can show him to the screen. Because I know that the internet loves cats. Hi, Bucky. What you doing? What you doing? Come on. No, he's not having it. He is absolutely not having it, which is annoying because it looks like I'm just an insane person. Come on, Bucky. I just look fully insane. Oh my god, it's Talisman. What do you think, Bucky? What do you think of the bandit? Good morning, Tom. Assassin has recently taken my top spot over Prophetess. I do quite like the Assassin. The Assassin is quite fun. Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I do need to click. I can click and then go back to giving you a hug. How's that sound? What do you think? Still need to click. Bear with me, Bucky. Right. So, what have we got, Bucky? You're not paying attention. So we've got the Wizard moving to the fields. An ape. What do you think of the ape? Do you not like the ape? Do you not think the ape is fun? Yes? The Wizard lost to the ape. I always knew he'd hate apes. Alright, the Wizard has died yet again. The Wizard seems to be playing really recklessly, which is working for him, to be fair. Like, you can't slate him for trying to play recklessly. With 3 strength and 8 craft, you kind of can throw yourself in there. Alright. Elf. What is the elf doing? Oh, while I'm on the topic of things that were improved in 5th edition over 4th edition, one of the reasons that I play with the game fully zoomed in is I want to see those cool 3D models that we've made. Like, we've made these cool 3D models for each and every character and for the upcoming characters that are getting added to the Reaper. Let's go to the temple. We're not going to the temple. Yes. What's going on, Bucky? Let's roll some dice. 5. Lose a life. Does that kill me? Oh no. Oh no, I'm dead. I am dead. But Death in 5th edition isn't quite as brutal, which is quite nice. It does mean that I... Do I lose all my stuff? I can't remember. Yes, I do lose all my stuff. Don't lose my strength and craft, but I didn't have any strength and craft. So... Ugh. What do you think, Bucky? It's not asked. Absolutely not asked. And Rocket. Hi. There is another cat in the room. Normally when I'm streaming I'll close my office door, but I don't need to today, so the cats can come and go as they please. Hi. I'd like to present you. Oh, Rocket, don't. Rocket doesn't like the being held as much as Bucky does. Do you want to say something? Yes? Nope. That's about as much as you'll see of Rocket. Alright. Warrior is at the temple. Right. So, depending on when you're watching this, we may or may not have already started showing off some more of the Reaper expansion. If we have, please let us know what you think of it, because our team have been working very hard, and we know that taking a classic iconic expansion like the Reaper and updating it to look like it fits within the 5th edition style is something that's going to cause a lot of debate, already has caused a lot of debate within the Talisman community, because it's a community of people who, you know, are so set in their ways makes it sound like a bad thing. It's a community of people who know what they like. They have spent so long playing Talisman digital edition and physical, that they're like, okay, this is what I consider Talisman in my brain, which is fair. And we've tried to thread a very delicate balance between making sure that we honour Talisman as it was with 4th edition, where it's terms of, you know, bringing across that 4th edition experience, while also making it so that it doesn't just feel, oh, it's just the same and you've copied it over and not put any effort into it at all, which does take more effort on our part, but, you know, Talisman has treated us as a game studio incredibly well. The Talisman community have treated us incredibly well, and I think us showing our respect and showing that we want to treat you guys very well is only fair. That's how I see it, anyway. And yes, one of the things that, speaking of DLC and remaking things, one of the things that I just got reminded of by the little changing thing behind me there was a big announcement that we made that maybe not everyone has seen, so I think it's worth talking about a little bit more. For anyone that doesn't know, there it is, there's the announcement again. For anyone that doesn't know, before we launched Talisman Digital 5th Edition, one of the things that we announced, and something that we're really proud of, is the way that we're handling DLC between Classic Edition and 5th Edition. So Classic Edition at this point has, I think it's like over 40 DLC items that you can get on Steam. So like there's a lot of expansions, there's a lot of characters, and we know that people have not only invested a lot of time into Classic Edition, you know, they've invested a lot of monetary resources. That's a weird way of saying money. People have spent money on Talisman Digital Classic Edition. And, you know, supporting us through that is one of the reasons we were able to make so much content for that game. And we want to keep making content. We want to keep bringing stuff to Talisman. We want to make more Talisman digital experiences. You know, that's something that we want to continue doing. So we had a big debate internally. We had a big discussion about the fact that there's so much 4th edition content that we didn't want to just leave it there. We didn't want to just say, okay, cool, that's just relegated to Classic Edition. Don't worry about it. Yes, you've spent money on those previous expansions. Yes, you've spent money on those previous characters. But just get 5th edition. Cool. Don't worry about all that stuff that you used to have. Just get 5th edition. And we knew for some people that would be fine. We knew for some other people that would be a bit of a harder sell. So we had a lot of discussion internally about, you know, what can we do to say thanks to the Talisman community? What can we do to say thanks to the Talisman digital community for all the support they've given us over the years? And what we realized was that we could go back, take all of that content that people love, that people have spent years enjoying, that have come to associate with Talisman Digital. Like, one of the reasons that we put together a Adventurer starter pack on Steam is specifically because we know at this point Talisman Digital Classic Edition is defined by playing with those expansions. Like, well, it seems a shame to miss out on all of that. It seems a shame for players to not be able to experience that in 5th edition. So we're like, okay, well, what if we took all of those old expansions, we took those classic iconic expansions, and we made them work in 5th edition? Like, obviously, we'd need to make some changes because, first of all, the art style is quite different. So we want to make sure that the art style is updated so that everything feels cohesive, everything feels like 5th edition. But also, the rules between 4th and 5th edition have changed. Some dramatic, some not so dramatic. So we wanted to make sure that, yeah, we weren't just bringing across cards that wouldn't either work or would just feel weird to use, like they'd be pointless in 5th edition. So what we did was we said, okay, well, what if we remastered those existing expansions? What if we took those expansions that everyone loves and actually update them? You know, go through the effort, go through the time, and put in the work to make it so that those classic expansions fit within 5th edition. Like, cool, let's do that. And then we had another debate about, well, let's say you've spent time and money putting into 4th edition. Like, you own the Reaper in 4th edition. If we make a new version of the Reaper, which is in 5th edition, you know, the remastered, new art, new mechanics, new, rebalanced cards, you know, making everything fit within the 5th edition rule set. You know, is there a way that we can thank everyone who's supported us by buying those expansions in the past? Like, you know what? We know who has bought the Reaper. You know, we've got the Nomad account system. We can see if you've got the Reaper. We can bring that across to 5th edition. So we'd be able to tell within 5th edition if you owned the Reaper in 4th edition. Like, why would we not just give people the remastered version? You know, they've supported us by buying 5th edition. Let's just give them those remastered expansions in 5th edition. So that's what we've done. We've set it up so that if you own the Reaper, no matter where you got it from, whether you got it on mobile, whether you got it on Steam, whether you got it on GOG, whether you got it through a bundle, however you got it, as long as that's registered to your Nomad account, which is super easy, you literally just open the game, log in, and then it's associated with your account. As long as that's the case, once we release the Reaper Classic in 5th edition, you will just get access to it. No extra payments, nothing else needs to be set up. We just need to confirm that you have it through the Nomad account, which is, like I said, email, password, sign up once, linked forever. Cool. So that's what we've done. We've made it so that if you turn around and say, okay, well, I already own the Reaper, I bought it 8 years ago, you don't have to pay us an extra thing. Like, obviously you need to buy 5th edition, which I think is fair. Let's take some armor. Let's rob this elf that was rude enough to try and mug me. Let's mug her back. Let's travel here. Let's get healed. The 5th edition is a little expensive, I think. I would create a friend pass for this game to play with friends with only one game. Yes, so, well, we can't make a friends pass. That isn't something that typically Valve support unless there's a very specific situation where it's called for, like with It Takes Two. But we are keeping all of the features that people came to appreciate with Talisman Digital Edition when it comes to making it so that you can share content. So in Talisman Digital Classic Edition, for anyone that doesn't know, we made it so that as long as one person in the online lobby has a particular piece of content, whether that be expansions or legendary decks, as long as one person owns that piece of content, everyone can use it. So you can have a 6-player game where everyone owns only the base game, and one person has the season pass and some other digital exclusive expansions. Like, if that's the case, everyone can play with it. Cool. And that's something that we're bringing forwards into Talisman Digital 5th edition, including with the classic remastered expansions. So if you and 4 friends all have Talisman Digital 5th edition, only one of you owns the Reaper, you can still play with that Reaper expansion online with all your friends. Like, you don't need to make it so that everyone has a copy of it. That's not the way we're doing it. Right, let's run to the hills. Let's run for my life. Also, ooh, I'll take that. I'll take that. Also, I realised when I started this stream, I said that I would not talk as much, and then I've ended up talking quite a lot. So, apologies / you're welcome for that. Alright, Wizard versus Spectre. See, I really like the parallax effect that we've got on a lot of the new artwork in Talisman Digital 5th edition. I think it really makes the art pop, especially on certain cards. Like, I've seen the Nightmare in the Reaper remastered. I think it looks so good. Like, in the original artwork, a lot of Talisman fans out there will know either that, or they'll be able to look up what the classic artwork looks like. But the new version of the Nightmare, where because of the longer card you can see it coming in from the top of the screen, is just so cool. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, our art team have done an amazing job of making those classic cards still look like the classic cards that they always were, but also making it so that they fit in with the new style. So far in this edition, what do you guys think your guys' version versus the real board game of it? What do you mean? As in, like, what do we think about our digital adaptation versus the physical version? Because one of the things that we've tried to do is, make it as accurate of a adaptation of the physical game as possible. Like, I think that's something that has come up a couple of times since launch, and it's always an interesting, not critique, but it's an interesting thing for us to try and discuss. Yeah, just out of general and asking that question, I think we've managed to do a very good job. Obviously, I'm biased of that. Spoilers, I'm part of the dev team. But I think we've managed to do a really good job of taking the hard work that's put into the real version of the board game, the physical version, and making that reflected in digital. Like I said, we didn't just go, oh, it's just Talisman with a new coat of paint. It's just Talisman with a slightly new look, but everything else is the same. Like, yes, there are some bits that are the same, but that's because it's still Talisman. But I think we haven't just approached it as, oh, this is just a coat of paint. This is just a bit of a rehash. Like, that's not how Hasbro and Games Workshop approached it, and that's not how we've approached it. And I think, given the fact that we've matched that energy of the physical game in the digital one, like, I'm happy that's what we've done. I'm happy that this is the product that we've put out, and I'm happy that the warrior has beaten up the elf because the elf beat me up previously. So there's a lot of things to be happy about. No apologies necessary, Tom. We enjoy chatting with you. It's not often you get the opportunity to speak directly with the game devs. It's true. Like, I realise that, you know, there are studios out there that will discuss things more than we do. There's studios out there that will have more regular streams and more regular discussions with the community. But something that I will point out, and I'll always point out, and it's not an excuse, it's not a oh, you should feel bad for us, you should feel sorry for us. But it's important to note that we are a studio of just 15 people, like, total. And when it comes to the design side of all of our games, that's one person. When it comes to our art team, that's 2 people. When it comes to the core team behind Talisman Digital 5th Edition, you know, that's 2-3 people. When it comes to the marketing and the publishing and streams and responding to people in the community, on the Steam forums, on the Discord, that's me. That's just one person. And again, it's not to say, oh, here's an excuse, here's a reason why we're not doing as well as Blizzard or From Software. You know, it's just, we'd rather be upfront and honest about it. We'd rather say, look, this is the status of us as a studio. This is what you can expect from us. This is what we're going to give you. Because if you know what to expect from us, then we can be better positioned to deliver the kind of experiences, the kind of content, everything from us as a studio. Warrior has gained 1 strength. I'm trying to learn the streaming, etc. for Tom. Yes, learning how to stream has been a experience. Not a good experience, but not a bad experience either. It's just been quite the learning curve. All right, let's roll the dice and see where I can go. I could go to the shrine. Yeah, shrine seems like worth going to. Nothing bad gonna happen. I'll gain a life. If I gain a life, I'm less likely to die, and that's always good in my book. But yes, even if you've not purchased Talisman Digital 5th Edition yet, even if you're just tuning in to check us out because you're curious about what the new version of Talisman looks like, we massively appreciate the support. That's something that I've always said and always will, is that we do massively appreciate all the support that our community give us, not just monetarily, but through tuning into these live streams, through commenting on all our social posts. You guys are really cool. And Dark Legion Mage, yes, all of the information that you have sent to me It has been very helpful. I think comparing when we first started streaming here on the Nomad Games Twitch channel, on Steam, comparing that to now, I almost don't want to go back and look at the old videos where it's just me on a webcam in the top corner of the screen. You know, I now have a fancy green screen, so it all looks a bit more professional. I now have a proper microphone and proper audio setup. So yeah, you guys are amazing. And you know, part of the reason that we do this is because there's such a love for Talisman within the community that is hard to it's hard to overstate, you know, how much the Talisman community love the game. And I think if the community didn't have that, it would be a lot harder for us to be willing to turn around and say, okay, look, this is a game that we want to support. This is a game that we want to put our energy into. Like, that energy is infectious. That energy of, oh, this game is so good. I can't wait to play more of it. I can't wait for there to be more expansions. I can't wait to find out what happens the next turn. That is infectious. That can't be overstated. So yes, Talisman is very good. I very much enjoy Talisman, and there's hundreds of thousands of you out there that enjoy Talisman. I've seen the stats. I don't look at it as much as the developers, but I've seen the stats. I know there's hundreds of thousands of you out there playing Talisman. And yeah, there's a reason this game is so loved. Like, it's classic, yes. It's nostalgic, yes. But its core, it's just a really good game. Like, every time you play it, it's going to be different, and that's really cool. When's not cool is when the warrior punches me in the face, and I do not enjoy that. So I am going to put on my sword and armor. Put on my armor. I don't necessarily put on a sword. Right, 13. Can I even... Alright, I might not lose a life because of armor. Unless they take it off me. That's freaking rude. That's incredibly rude. Alright. Meaning you want to show love and care to the games you guys make and put on the internet to show us, etc. Yeah. Alright. So, I think, given that I just launched into a Friday stream, I am now quite tired from just staring at my screen. And I think I'm going to give myself a little break. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the stream here. I'm going to go make myself a tea, because the tea that I did have is now incredibly cold, which is not fun. I'm going to run away from the warrior because they are continuing to be rude. And yeah, I am going to sneeze and then go back to making a lot of exciting stuff for Talisman Digital 5th Edition. Like I said, it might not be out by the time you're watching this stream, but it might be. We're going to be putting out some previews for the Reaper Classic expansion, and what you can expect in Talisman Digital 5th Edition when that launches. Thank you for blessing me. So yes, keep an eye on all of our socials for that, because that's going to be shouted out very loudly, I am sure, because I am the one in charge of shouting. I'm curious as the AI has improved compared to 4th. Yes, the AI has improved compared to 4th for 2 reasons. I'll answer this question before I go. So 2 of the reasons that the AI has improved is that the AI that we had in 4th edition was very much built upon, like I said earlier in the stream, legacy code. When we originally made Talisman Digital Edition, we didn't think that we'd be adding expansions and new content to the game for as long as we ended up doing, like for 10 years. That isn't something that we considered. That isn't something that we anticipated. So when it came to making the AI improvements and making the AI better in 4th edition, because we were building on an AI that only needed to really account for the base game, when you started adding expansions and new cards, it became far too much for it to deal with. Like, it can still play through a game, like it doesn't have an issue doing that, but when you've got hundreds of thousands of possible things that the AI needs to consider, sometimes it'll make moves that, yes, on paper make sense, but really when you look at a bigger picture or just what makes sense for that turn, the AI can make some foolish decisions. And you know, that's something that we've often pointed at, and we've said, look, we're aware of this. You know, we're aware that the AI leaves something to be desired in Classic Edition, and I think that's something that we definitely wanted to make sure wasn't the case in 5th edition. So we stripped back the AI for 5th edition. Like, we completely stripped it back to the basics. And what we then did was we went, okay, look, we've stripped it back. The AI now has only so many things that it needs to worry about, but we've made it so that the basis for the AI's decision making is much better than it ever was. So that when in 5 years' time you open up Talisman Digital 5th edition and you play with 10 expansions and a whole load of other stuff going on, the AI at that point will be much smarter, because we've given it such a more solid foundation for it to learn from and build upon. So while there's not so many things for it to consider in the base game, you know, we're constantly iterating on the AI. The patch that we rolled out 2 days ago fixed some weird AI behaviors, and we're going to continue releasing patches like that, because we know that the AI and Talisman is something that has become, not a meme seems too strong of a word, but it's something that players will point at and go, yes, it's better to play online because the AI doesn't always play like a real human does. And I think that's something that we've tried to make sure that in the base game and further beyond that, we stick with. All right, I'm going to stop the stream now. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching. And yes, check out Talisman Digital 5th edition. And I appreciate you all very much. Bye.